help you down, sir. As we are moving through the book of Proverbs, we have spent a couple of weeks talking about the idea of adultery and how that fits in to the responsible life that the author wants us to have. Today, though, he switches gears a little bit. He has been talking about a lot of different relationships that we have. And one of the things that he has been pointing out is that we should take care of what is ours, our responsibility, our property, our relationships, and let other people handle their own thing, handle their own relationships, handle their own responsibilities, and guard what is ours. Well, here he's branching out again into a variety of things where we have to take care of what belongs to our neighbor as well as what belongs to ourselves. This chapter brings together two instructions, both concerning behaviors and relationships, this relationship that we have with our neighbors and this relationship that we have with our spouses. The first set of teachings tells us how to deal with other people, and it describes them as brothers and neighbors. And it would correspond to all the people that we run into in the course of our daily life. The second returns to the subject of that strange woman, that foreign woman, that evil person who is trying to take what is not yours, take what is yours. Not take what is not yours, that wouldn't be right. She can have what's not yours, I don't know. And so we talk about this way of responsibility. He's really talking about a path that we follow, a path that is responsible and that we need to go on. And so he talks about three different groups here. He talks about people who make rash financial decisions, people who are lazy, and people who are scoundrels. In fact, that's a special word. This word sluggard is a special word in Proverbs as well. So let's look at these three. There are four warnings here in these first 19 verses, and they are separate from the instructions on adultery, but they are also connected to that. They remind us that not all temptations come from women. Those four guys are the temptations, by the way, in case you don't recognize who they are. Five guys? Well, the guy in the middle, he's special. I don't know. They're the temptations. And not all temptations come from women, and I think that's one of the reasons why the author puts these things in there. The four sections, though, are distinct, but they are linked together through various catchwords, and a lot of them have to do with body parts, hands and feet and mouths and hearts. And so a lot of those will be connected, both when we're talking about these three different men, plus in the section on adultery as well. They all have warnings about dangerous outcomes. One of the great things about the book of Proverbs is it reminds us to look at the end result of our behavior. Not just what we see today, maybe not even just what we see tomorrow, not looking at what our pleasures are being fulfilled today, but what is going to happen as a result of your behavior, your choices down the road. And this is what the Proverbs always want us to look at. How is this going to play out in this world? There are three different men here with three different faults. Larry, Curly, and Moe, if you want to go with that. And they have their faults, and these three gentlemen have some real interesting problems. And then finally, after those three men are talked about, there is a list of 7 behaviors. I don't think they correspond with the 7 deadly sins, but they are 7 things that are abominated by the Lord. So the first thing that we want to talk about in this way of responsibility is that we need to be free from pledges. Now, this idea of pledges starts off, in my mind anyway, with the idea of co-signing. You may not be familiar with that, but if you can't get a loan, you have somebody co-sign who has got more responsibility, more property, and you co-sign for that person. Well, co-signing, it may not be what... it's kind of a difficult concept to understand here in the book of Proverbs, because it doesn't seem to be just co-signing. There seems to be more involved in all of this, and it seems to be a place where a person can be in danger of losing everything that he has to a stranger. You know, you need to guard what is yours. And somehow or other in this co-signing, in this striking hands and pledging, the person is in danger of losing all that he owns. Now, he says that you shouldn't strike hands with a stranger. You shouldn't. I think the rescue squad just went off. Hopefully somebody answers that. If it goes off again, I might have to go. Stranger is, if they need me, Tom. Oh, it's transfer? All right, everybody stand up and walk around in a circle. Speaking of strange. All right. Now, it's interesting that he's not supposed to strike hands with a stranger. Stranger is the same word that is often used when it's talking about this evil woman. It's not that she's evil, it's that she's different. She's not yours. And so, it's back to this idea that you guard what is yours and you leave alone what does not belong to you. If the wicked are caught by their own sin, here a person could be caught by this hasty pledge, this hasty business deal, and we'll examine that a little bit more as we go along. Each mention of this practice of striking a pledge or striking the hand in the book warns against getting involved with other people. It seems to be doing something risky behavior, not necessarily co-signing, but risky behavior like getting involved in a land war in Asia. That's always been a risky behavior that I can think of. And in the book of Proverbs, it talks about risky behavior, and that's what it has to do with that striking of this pledge or striking hands. Now, strictly speaking, this chapter these verses don't say so much against avoiding entanglements. It says get out of them as fast as you can. It seems to be a long-term deal. It seems like they're already involved and they need to get out of them as soon as possible. And then he says, go humble yourself and get out of this. Now, oddly enough, the phrase humble yourself in Hebrew also means run away, go quickly. And so there might be a double sense involved in this, where not only do you humble yourself by going to this person and getting out of this involvement, but do it now. Do it quickly. Don't wait for anything to happen. The most significant word in these verses is the word hand. It occurs a number of different times, and in Hebrew it is often a symbol of power. We could almost read these verses as saying that, so one strikes hand in pledge and thus plays into your neighbor's hand, but one can get free by the way of the gazelles and birds escape the hand of the hunter, which is mentioned in verse 5 a couple times. So he says, your hands are involved here. Keep them clean. Keep them away. Keep them home. Keep them in your pockets. Don't get in trouble. But why would someone guarantee a pledge for a stranger? I like this. Bro, can you co-sign on a TV for me? My credit's bad. Why would you do this? Why would you have to even warn somebody to do this against with a stranger? I can see, they might have warned you, no, don't co-sign loans for your kids or don't co-sign loans for your second cousin. But I don't think anybody has to be warned to not co-sign a loan with a stranger. And I think this is one of the reasons why a lot of the commentators were saying that this is not so much co-signing as risky financial speculation. You're either borrowing money to invest in something or you're loaning money in a very risky business proposition. And those kinds of things can be bad, especially when you do not have the money to lose. Now, if you have the money to lose, like Mr. Buffett does, he can invest in all kinds of risky speculation, and he's not going to go home at the end of the day and find out his house has been repossessed. But if we, as more moderate citizens, get involved in risky speculation, there is high risk, but there's also high reward, we might end up losing our home. And I think that what the Bible is saying, don't take risks if you cannot afford to lose what you are risking. Okay? So, if you borrow money on a house, can you sell that house and pay back the money? Sure, no problem. But if you borrow, $1 million on a $1,000 house, can you sell the house and get your money back? No. And I think the Bible would say, don't do that. It is a risky financial speculation. And then he goes on to talk about learning something from the ant. Having just given us an